This video is for MTB 1370 in Unit 2 when we are converting between two household units. Now there is a separate video showing solutions using the dimension analysis or unit fraction method. This video will show you the solutions using the proportion method. So our first problem says 4 pints is equivalent to how many fluid ounces? Well, in the proportion method, we set up a proportion, which is when one ratio is equal to another ratio. And in this method, we put the problem situation on one side of the equation in one ratio. So for example, we would write 4 pints is equal to X fluid ounces, since we do not know how many fluid ounces. And in the other ratio, we put the known equivalent. So we know that 1 pint is equal to 16 fluid ounces. So that is an equivalent you need to have memorized. And one thing you could do to help you is remember that 1 cup is 8 fluid ounces and a pint is just 2 cups. So 2 times 8 fluid ounces would be 16 fluid ounces. Now when we solve a proportion, we cross multiply and we would get 4 times 16 is 64, and X times 1 is equal to X, and X is in the units of fluid ounces, so our answer is 64 fluid ounces. On the next problem, we are given 24 fluid ounces and we want to know how many cups. So we just mentioned a second ago that 1 cup was 8 fluid ounces. That's going to be helpful in this problem. So again, set up your proportion with 2 ratios. On one side, write down the problem situation, which is 24 fluid ounces is equivalent to we don't know how many cups. And in the other ratio, we need to keep the units in the same order. So it's going to be fluid ounces on top and cups on bottom. So if we want to write the units in there first, we could. And in this problem, we know that for fluid ounces and cups, we know 1 cup is 8 fluid ounces. And then we solve this proportion by cross multiplying, and we would get 24 is equal to X times 8, which is 8X. If we divide both sides by 8, we will get 3. So we get X is equal to 3, and X is in cups, so our answer is 3 cups. And hopefully that makes sense because each cup is 8 fluid ounces, so 3 times 8 would be 24 fluid ounces. In problem 3, we're given 5 gallons and we want to know how many pints that is. So again, in this method of solving, the proportion method, we put the problem situation, 5 gallons is equal to X pints. And on the right hand side, we have to keep the units in the same order, gallons in the numerator, pints in the denominator. Now you probably know that 1 gallon is 4 quarts. 1 gallon is 4 quarts, but each quart is 2 pints. So we have 4 quarts and each one of those is 2 pints. So 1 gallon is 8 pints. It's also 16 cups if we needed to know that, but we don't for this problem. Now cross multiplying, we get 5 times 8 is 40. And X times 1 is equal to X, and X is in pints, so our answer is 40 pints. Pretty simple method if you know your equivalents. So cups and quarts. So we are given that we have 20 cups, and we do not know how many quarts. So in the other ratio, we need to put cups to quarts. And on the right hand side is where you have to use the known information or the memorized information. So in this case, cups and quarts, we know a quart is larger, so always say, well, if you have one of the larger, how many of the smaller is that? And if you need to do it in sequence, you can. Quarts to pints, you know that 1 quart is 2 pints, and for each pint there's 2 cups. So if there's 2 pints, that means there are 4 cups. So 1 quart and 4 cups is equivalent. Now when we solve this, we cross multiply. 20 is equal to 4x. 20 is equal to 4x. Dividing both sides by 4 gives us x is equal to 5. And x is quarts, so we have 5 quarts. Pints and quarts. Again, this worksheet was from one household unit to the other, so we have no metric in this worksheet. It's just household to household. So we have 84 pints is equal to, we don't know how many quarts. Put it in the same order in the other ratio. Pints to quarts. Quarts is the larger unit of measurement, so if you have one of those, how many of the smaller pints? Well, in the previous problem we said that's 2. For every 2 pints, that's 1 quart. And then to solve a proportion, we cross multiply, and we get 84 is equal to 2x. 84 is equal to 2x. Dividing both sides by 2, you get 42. And x was the number of quarts, so we have 42 quarts. We're going to have half as many quarts as we do pints, because for every 2 pints we get 1 quart. That's why the answer makes sense, that if we had 84 pints, we just have half of that in quarts. And number 6, 15 cups is equal to how many pints? In the other ratio, we have cups in the numerator, pints in the denominator. A pint is larger, so start off with saying, well, if you have one of those, how many cups is that? And we know that 2 cups is a pint, just like 2 pints was equal to a quart. And if we solve this, we get 15 is equal to 2x. So 15 is equal to 2x. Dividing by 2, we get x is equal to, and this is the household system, so we prefer fractions over decimals. So 2 goes into 15 7 whole times with a remainder of 1 that we divide by the divisor of 2. So 7.5 pints. So 15 cups is equivalent to 7.5 pints. On the next page, we start off with 12 ounces is equal to how many pounds? Well, we know 16 ounces is a pound, so 12 ounces is not even a pound. You need 16 ounces to be equivalent to a pound. So we should end up with less than 1 pound. So 12 ounces is equivalent to how many pounds? We don't know, so we put an X. And on the right hand side we put the memorized, or the equivalent. And the equivalent that we have memorized is that 1 pound is 16 ounces. We solve, we get 16x is equal to 12 times 1, which is 12. Divide by the coefficient of 16, and then reduce. We get x is equal to, I know 4 goes into both of those, 3 and 4 times, so our answer is 3/4. Since it is in pounds, we do prefer fractions. If that was in kilograms, we'd prefer that as a decimal, because that's the metric system. But in the household system, we prefer fractions if it turns out to be a common fraction. If the fraction is not a basic common fraction, then it is okay to write a decimal. So in problem 8, we have 8 tablespoons is how many fluid ounces? So which equivalent do we have memorized here? So we have to keep tablespoons on top and fluid ounces on bottom. I relate this back to the standard 1 fluid ounce medicine cup. If you had a 1 fluid ounce medicine cup, that was 2 tablespoons, which is 6 teaspoons. So 1 fluid ounce medicine cup would be 2 tablespoons. So again, you have to have that knowledge. And if we solve this, we have 8 is equal to 2x. And if we divide by 2, we get 4, and x is in fluid ounces, so we have 4 fluid ounces. And again, for every 1 fluid ounce, there's 2 tablespoons. So if you have 4 fluid ounces, 4 times 2 is 8 tablespoons. So that answer of 4 fluid ounces makes sense because that's 4 of those little medicine cups. And in each one of those medicine cups, it's 2 tablespoons. So if you had 4 of the fluid ounces, you would have 8 tablespoons. Tablespoons to teaspoons, so we have 36 tablespoons. How many teaspoons is that? This is a very common equivalent. That a tablespoon is larger, so if you have 1 of those, that's 3 teaspoons. And if you solve this, you get 1x is equal to 3 times 36, which is 108 teaspoons. 108 teaspoons. Because for every tablespoon, you're going to have 3 teaspoons that it's equivalent to. So 36 times 3 is 108. 3.5 pounds, it's written as a mixed number because it's in the household system. And we want to know how many ounces that is. Okay. So if I have 3.5 pounds, x ounces, how many ounces is that? Well, we have already talked about earlier on about the equivalent between pounds and ounces, and we know 1 pound is 16 ounces. So if we solve that, we get x is equal to 3.5 times 16 ounces. And I know 3 times 16 is 48, and a half times 16 is another 8. So 48 plus 8 is 56 ounces. Again, that's 3.5 times 16. So that's basically 48 plus 8, which is 56. And you are allowed to use your calculator if you need to do that calculation. I believe we have a couple more problems. Another teaspoon and tablespoon. This time we're converting from tea to tablespoons. So we have 5 teaspoons is how many tablespoons? Keep them in the same order. Teaspoons in the numerator, tablespoons in the denominator. We know 1 tablespoon is 3 teaspoons. So if we multiply this, again, this is an equation, it's a proportion, so if it's an equation with a ratio on each side, we can cross multiply, and we get 3x is equal to 5, dividing by 3 gives us x is equal to, we don't want to leave it as 5/3, so 3 goes into 5 one time with a remainder of 2, so it's 1 2/3 tablespoons. And we knew the answer was going to be 1 and 2 tablespoons because we knew 3 teaspoons was 1 tablespoon, and we knew 6 teaspoons was 2 tablespoons. So if we had 5 teaspoons, that falls between 3 and 6, so we knew our answer was going to fall between 1 tablespoon and 2 tablespoons. For the very last problem, we have 40 ounces is equal to how many pounds? So we would set it up as 40 ounces is equivalent to X pounds. And in the other ratio, we have same order, ounces in the numerator, pounds in the denominator, and we know 1 pound is 16 ounces. They're equivalent. So to solve this, we cross multiply and get 16x is equal to 40. And then dividing by 16 and reducing, we get x is equal to 8 goes into both of those, 5 over 2, dividing both by 8. And 5 over 2, we would not leave it that way because that's an improper fraction. So 5 halves is the same as 2 and 1/2. So the answer is 2 and 1/2 pound. And again, since it's in the household system, we prefer fractions over decimals. If it was in the metric system, then we would like our answer written in decimal form instead of fractional form. And this concludes the video in MTB 1370, converting from one household unit to another household unit using the proportion method. Now there's 2 videos posted, one using the unit fraction method or the dimension analysis method, and this video using the proportion method. On your homework and on your test, you may choose which method you prefer to use. So you will not be expected to know both methods on the Unit 2 test.